Hello everyone, and Akwaba to the first and almost episode 0 of the Creative Business Podcast. For this very special and first episode, I welcome Kadri.
Hi, hello everyone.
Generally, I'm kind of the face of Anka that everybody sees and unfortunately has to do a lot of work, but Kadri is my co-founder since the very beginning and the guy that actually is doing a lot of the work with all of our sellers, all of the community. And so Kadri, can you maybe explain a bit to everyone why we're here today? Because the podcast can be explained, but this special episode is for a specific reason that everybody expects.
Yes, because as everybody know, Afrikrea is dead. We change our brand, and we decide to develop and put forward Anka more. And this rebranding create a lot of buzz, quite of buzz.
A lot of tension.
A lot of tension. We can say it, but yes, we are here to talk about it. To talk about why we are doing the change that we implemented.
Yeah.
So I think that people need some explanation.
Yes.
We need to try to understand, and this podcast will be the opportunity to go deeper.
Yes.
In our strategy and our vision.
Exactly. And thank you for that, because people don't necessarily realize, but this is not going to be the only episode. This is just the start of a longer series of podcasts that is going to be called Creative Business. And like the name indicates, the idea for us was to showcase behind the business, because a lot of the creative business is a lot of sparks, very beautiful things, as you know, that everybody knows. Yeah. Sometimes painful things like the communication we did, but people don't often get to understand why, how, who are the entrepreneurs behind and what drives them and what makes some of them succeed and others fail. So the idea for us was to try to use this platform, that is Creative Business, in a longer form to go in deeper with the experts of our industries. And it's not going to be only fashion, obviously. Creative industries goes all the way from fashion to digital products, to hospitality, to all the people that we feel are doing something out of Africa for the rest of the world. And that is the vision of this podcast. So, of course, I know in French, I don't know if that is said in English, charity must start with self.
Self, yes.
And especially because we felt like Kader said, this transition that was first announced as a death was a very risky move. To be honest, I think we can say it now, because I don't want people to believe that we are going for like the few minutes that is going to come to gloat that we did something great and we're very happy about the result. It was difficult to decide. And the first thing I think people need to know is, for how long have we been talking about whether or not to kill the name Afrikrea and transition?
Yes, okay. I think maybe 4 years.
4 years.
At least 3 years, but...
At least, exactly. Yes. I think since COVID, basically.
Yes, since COVID, yeah.
Since COVID.
When we start the subscription...
model, yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes,
I think this was the first time we had discussion, you and I.
To be honest, I was against it.
Obviously.
Yes. It was a Moulay idea to really try to have a coherent brand.
Yeah.
But with all the work that we did with Afrikrea,
yeah.
I was yes. There is a lot of dark part that a lot of elements that we didn't really understand, and I wanted to make sure that with the brand changing, that we didn't lose a lot of sellers or even to lose the essence.
Yes.
Of who we are. So it was a long discussion.
Yeah.
But in 3-4 years, a lot of happened.
A lot of things happened.
Yes,
so that I think is the essence of the discussion of the why today. Is because it's people really need to understand. It's important for us to say this was not decided easily. This was not decided quickly. Yeah. It took us a long time, and we're going to try today to give you not all the details, not all the 3 years of discussion, but I think we're going to focus on the things that you can learn from. Because the idea today is not just to share the marketing tactic, is to share also kind of a state of e-commerce, a state of generally how do you operate from Africa to the rest of the world, because people don't see all that it takes to do that. They just see the result. It looks nice. Sometimes they complain legitimately. So we also address all of the things that they felt like we did wrong in these 4 years and all of the things that we could do better. But once you explain this 4 years, the one thing that I really want to start with for me is people don't realize, and I think to explain, because people will say, why did I say we need to have a coherent brand? And it's something we built 10 years of our life into. It's still a significant part of our life, and even to this day, I think I will still make the mistake of sometimes call us Afrikrea before saying Anka. So it's not like we don't care, and it means a lot to a lot of people. So the main driver behind it, and that people maybe don't realize it, is that Afrikrea was first and foremost the biggest reason people did not understand what is Anka. So it's like, it's a kind of a very strange situation where you see like it's almost like 10 years of work becomes your biggest hurdle to do the next 10 years. Yeah. And we had almost to kill our own child so that the second child could grow. And that's the 4 years that people really couldn't get. Discussion was really about it. I think like, I think you can share also what happened. I think because I think the second part of it is we discussed this is when we raised money and we changed the name to Anka.
Yeah, but the thing is that yes, as you said, it was really hard because with Afrikrea we managed to build a strong community, international community, and it was hard to imagine a world even without Afrikrea in our ecosystem. Yeah. And I was more thinking about a business like LVMH, as a company that can manage different brands that have their own identity. But yes, the fact is that when we had our first big fundraising, and we pitched our idea to build an African infrastructure ecosystem that will allow sellers to export their product and even to develop their business, because this is the vision of Anka. We noticed that it was really even hard for us to don't be confused. So sometimes we were talking about Anka and Afrikrea, and even for the investors to understand that we were in a position more open to open the market, not just focus on fashion, for example. It was really hard and confused. So it was maybe the first sign that we have an issue with Afrikrea. Yes.
Yeah, and I think another thing that makes it good to give an example to people that are watching today is even our own sellers started to make jokes like, "Oh, Afrikrea is great, but Anka is just it's not good," or because the thing is, people need to realize another thing that is very different with us is that we have customers all over the world. A big part of our customers also, from Afrikrea mostly, are people that were our original region, which are a lot of people in Europe. And they didn't care or didn't need any of the Anka services. The shipping services, the payment services is something they have given to them. And all of that made it very complicated for us, not only to manage the existing community of sellers, but even when, I will give the example of the sales team, because you manage the sales team also, when they were outreaching to new potential sellers, what they were saying was funny also.
Yes, because even the sales, when the sales wanted to sell Anka, it was difficult for them to sell it, and they would always refer to Afrikrea to show the notoriety that we are a serious business. So Afrikrea was seen as the big business, the main business, where the main revenue came from Anka.
Exactly.
And that was a real issue for us, and even for the sales, to incentivize, to try to convince new people to join the Anka infrastructure. It was really hard. It was really confusing.
And that's interesting because I think even to this podcast, we can add all of the passage over the years where I was explaining to people, oh, Afrikrea is just one part of Anka, like Instagram is part of Meta. And I said that so many times over the years. So I think the last 2 years, that was the idea. We transitioned by saying to people, no, Afrikrea is one part of Anka. Afrikrea is one part of Anka. We tried and thought that repeating was enough. But then quickly we realized that the key thing also is that is a very strong indication, was the proof for most people of our credibility. And the Instagram name, as long as it was Afrikrea, was basically stopping the growth of anything Anka related for the people we needed to work with. So that was the biggest, I think, issue. And to understand why we had to do it this way, you need to understand that when you have a brand that is so rightfully known and appreciated, that it's beginning to be a barrier to the growth of your new brand, you cannot just, for 2 years, so I really want to highlight to people that were saying, why do you did this way? Why did you have to talk about death? It's because for 2 years, we tried to talk about transition. We tried to exist, to have the two brands exist, and we failed. And as all entrepreneurs, I think the lesson to learn here is that your emotions are not the driver of how you take decisions. Even us, for years, we were emotionally trying to manage and make the things happen. But for years, we were faced with, and it's crazy, even our employees, just to give you an example, even employees, when they were talking to their friends or getting introduced, they would say, oh, I work at Anka. Everybody was like, okay. And when they say, but it's known as Afrikrea, everybody was like, oh, yes, I know that. And that's horrible. So it's basically a permanent feeling that what you're doing is holding, what you're trying to go is not possible because of what you have done. It's almost like Afrikrea became something that is holding us back.
Yeah, and I think that we can talk about Afrikrea business model.
Yes, exactly.
Because the reality is that when we create Afrikrea,
yes,
we were in Europe.
Exactly.
Yes, in Europe, where there are all the infrastructure for sellers is here. Yeah. Is there about the payment, the shipping.
Exactly.
Wasn't needed. Those things were really easy.
Exactly.
And already built.
Exactly.
And when we decided to move to Africa.
Yeah, in 2017. For those that didn't know, we moved in Africa in 2017.
I have to say, before we were really proud to say that we are the Etsy of Africa. The African Etsy.
That was before. Yeah.
Yes, but the reality is that in Africa, this model is not, it's really complicated.
Yes, it's not enough.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
And the big lesson that I learned for this experience is that developing a marketplace like Afrikrea or even the African Etsy is really difficult where in a place where you don't have we have a fragmented communities.
Yes.
Because people say Africa, but it's more than 50 countries with different regulation, payment system, shipping system. It's really complicated, fragmented market.
Yeah.
And when you don't have the infrastructure, you can build a sustainable marketplace and aligned. Even we're talking about the business model, aligned with the biggest marketplace that was Etsy
at the time.
Yes, in maybe one of the largest country in terms of consumption customer base.
Yeah.
We couldn't just align in terms of business model. It was impossible. It wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, and that's I think the first driver that made us go through the subscription change and the model change. But that's interesting. That's even 2019, just to give people the vision. So 2 years from 2017 to 2019, we made this transition where, and I think I can give a number to help people understand also, and that's another lesson for entrepreneurs listening to us, is we started to notice when we were already in Europe, even before coming, that the sellers in Africa were having way worse experience of selling because of the issues you mentioned. Because they were getting so much time to get their money once they got paid outside and getting the money finally in their hands in their country, that they were having troubles to ship on time, and they were having troubles to produce properly, all of that. And even when they were shipping, it was so expensive sometimes that they were losing customers or people would not order again. Yeah. So when we came, that was our first focus, and that's why we traveled all over Africa to help. And that's how the ideas of the Anka services came about.
Yes, I think that people need to understand we build the services for the marketplace at first.
At first.
To help our seller in the marketplace to develop. Because we just noticed that this was the
issues. Yeah.
Yes, the need and the issues.
Yeah.
Even if you give African seller visibility, if the seller can have a way to get his money or even to ship the product correctly with a good experience, it's no business. It's almost impossible for the sellers to grow.
They will get 1 order, 2 orders, maybe 5, but they won't get to an order every week. And people need to understand that when you want to build a sustainable creative business, you cannot rely only on acquisition. You cannot just say, oh, I want new customers all the time. That's not possible. The only way you build a business that grows is that you need to have a solid base that reorders. Yeah. And then you add on top a few new correspondent customers. So all customers are not your customers. You need to have correspondent customers that matches what you are selling and grows with you. Yeah. And that was the same thing for us. We had our existing base of sellers that was still there, but we realized that if we wanted to grow, we need to offer more services. But I think that is something that we can go into more detail, but I just want to conclude on one thing is why we had to do it and say first we need to kill Afrikrea. Because I think it's just to be very clear to people is if we had done like we did over the last 2 years, another message saying, oh, we are just transitioning Afrikrea to become Anka Marketplace, I guarantee you we wouldn't have, maybe we would have okay, maybe 100 maybe 1,000 but just so people realize the Anka is over video, the Afrikrea is over video, sorry, you see. The Afrikrea is over video, got us over 300,000 views in 2 days.
Wow.
I don't think we ever made a post about us that got even half of that. Even when we raise money, we raised tens of millions of dollars, we never got that much traction. And to be very clear, nobody cared that much. And that's sad. And just so people realize, that's why doing it the way we did was painful, because we knew, and just like I said, we knew that if we wanted the attention, we needed to do something meaningful. And the other reason was, just to be very clear, if we had done the transition, just let's say, we could have just migrated Afrikrea to Marketplace on Afrikrea purely technically and do nothing. The worst part for me would have been that then a lot of people would have asked again, what is Anka? And they would have still held on to what was Afrikrea. So they would have still built this opposition where they felt like we didn't give them a choice. And I want to highlight one last thing that is pretty important also in the future to explain what we're going to do, is that, just to be clear, contrary to the belief of people, I'm not a good actor. I'm not an actor. I almost did not pretend.
It was a great scene, let's be honest. I almost believe it.
Yeah, because for people just to know, Kader was not in the room when we filmed it. So he just saw it just a few days before you.
Yeah.
But I want to add to that part, because I think the emotional part, just to conclude on that, then we go to the business part. People need to really understand another thing. The reason why this video was so credible was because at some point in our life it was true. And that's the key thing that people need to understand is Afrikrea died multiple times. And basically, I want any people that are listening, especially people that are mad that we had to do it this way, and that we said the things we said and we let them for 2 days imagine Afrikrea is dead. Please understand that this could have been true. Just to be very clear, even less than a year ago, last summer, we were exactly prepared to do this video. Kader can confirm, we were ready to say exactly that, because the company was running out of money. So everything I said in this video is true, just so you realize. So it's not something that we are saying because we want to get pity. It's not that. It's just that I want people to realize that it's not raising money that makes you invincible, first. People, for some reason, because we raise tens of millions, think that we will never die, which is absolutely not true. The money we raise, like I say in many other platforms, is a commitment to give 10 times the same amount in the next 5 years. We raised 13 million over the last 10 years. We are supposed to give back $130 million of value before the next 5 years. So that's an additional pressure we have. But just to be very clear, and we will explain why and in more details, but that's why it's important. Like, the reason also we chose to do it this way is because to some extent we want people to realize that this is not something that is given. It's not something that we should not fight for. We could lose Afrikrea tomorrow, just like we could lose Anka. And it's not something we are happy about. But if we are not honest, we are lying to the most important people in our business, that are our customers. And just so you know, and I really want to insist on that, our customers, the entrepreneurs subscribed to Anka, received the information a week before that this was going to come out, and we were just migrating. So that was something that we shared with them ahead of time because we care about them. But nonetheless, and that's interesting because the best part for me of this announcement of death is that even people that were aware of it happening contacted us, even sellers that were aware that it was just a transition, were after that realizing, okay, the way you said it, maybe it was true. So what really happens? Why are you doing what you're doing? So I think it's important to people to understand that it's not just, we didn't play. I just want to highlight that. It's not like we lied.
Yeah.
The important part is that, and I think, yeah, you can comment to that a lot, because people don't realize that it was like just the truth. It's not like we lied even. I didn't, when I sat in front of the camera, the only change I did in my mind is put myself just 6 months ago. Or maybe 8 months ago now.
Yeah, that's true that last year was really, really tough.
Yeah.
And we almost died,
Yep.
to be honest. And that's where we had the realization that with Afrikrea, we just couldn't go nowhere.
Exactly.
Yes, because of the structure of the company, the market, the difficulty, and it was even shown on our KPIs, on our figures. So we understand. People don't understand that we face with some challenges. Like frauds. Yes, we had a massive issue in fraud. One of our biggest countries, like Nigeria or even Ivory Coast, when we are often blacklisted.
Yes, on payment.
We're on payment side. So
on other things.
This had a lot of challenge that we knew that where we was heading was just a death and bankruptcy.
A bankruptcy.
Yes. So we needed to make that pivot. Even though all the new shipping, the Anka Pay, the Anka shipping, were already
showing, saving us.
Yes, so saving us. So we really needed to do that move, and even I understand why it was painful, because even when I see the post last week, it was really weird for me, because to say that Afrikrea is dead, it's a decade of my life, maybe. Yes. One quarter of my life, and I had all the memories of the beginnings and of the sellers. It was really painful to see the seller message. So
very true.
Yes, but I think that we needed to burn the ships. To go forward and to really embrace the new vision of the developing African entrepreneurship. I think that with Afrikrea and Anka, we were too ambiguous. Yes, between the diaspora market and the African market. With Anka, we're really assuming take the responsibility and take fully the vision of developing the African entrepreneurship and bring it to the world.
It's key.
It's more clear.
It's clearer.
It's clearer.
Yeah, that's definitely it. So I really want to conclude on that part, that just for the people that were asking why we did it this way. So you have two reasons. First, because the Africa brand was stopping the Anka brand to grow. And the second one was that, yes, the Afrikrea company and the Afrikrea product in itself, if we were still only Afrikrea, we will have been bankrupt years ago. And I want people to come back to realize that the other thing that changed a lot is COVID. Since COVID, e-commerce is no longer the same. So I think we can go in a little bit deeper now on the business and also why we chose to do Anka. So like Kader explained, in 2019, we already started doing services of shipping, services of payment for people in Africa. But what happened is, after COVID, that was the main driver of our growth. Our revenue grew 5 times, and that's how we managed to raise money. So people need to realize, even in 2021, and I'm talking to people that felt like Afrikrea was doing great at that time, even at that time, we were doing 3 times more shipment than we were doing sales on Afrikrea.
And I think that I have a fun detail is that in the shipping part, we had a lot of sellers that was just open shop just to use the shipment service.
Exactly. So more than people that were opening Afrikrea marketplace.
That it was the majority of people that were using the shipping didn't use even the marketplace.
Exactly.
So all of a big chunk of our revenue were from people that didn't even use the marketplace. But it was obvious, and that was the reason why we shifted the business model.
The business model of subscription. So that was the main reason.
Yes, because it was free for them.
Exactly, for them it was free, and we were not making any money at the time on it because we were still too small to get the right margin and pricing with our partners. Now, thankfully, it's much better. But I really want to also explain a bit more of the change in terms of e-commerce. And since 2020, I think it's important to people to realize that e-commerce has changed dramatically. And like even selling online has changed. And I think the good framework for us to understand that is, for all that don't know, generally, when you do commerce and e-commerce especially, the business and the job is split in 3 parts. You have the discovery part, so basically getting your product found by new customers. You have the conversion part, so which is getting sure that the customers that you found actually transact with you. And then you have all of the management part, which is making sure that once they paid and they transacted with you, you execute the service and eventually you give them an experience that want them to come back. So discovery, conversion, and management. And what was interesting is that Afrikrea initially, we just focused on doing all of this with the marketplace. But what you discussed and what you said is that we quickly noticed that in reality, what people in Africa needed the most was the conversion and the management. And that was shocking for a lot of people because, and especially for us, to be honest, because we thought that everybody has the narrative that most African sellers need to be discovered. What we saw from the numbers, and we still insist on that, is that yes, for the majority of people, yes, they still need to be discovered. The problem is that they don't realize that getting discovered is not the problem. Even if they get visibility, they won't get sales. Which is not the same case as the few people that actually are selling well. And when people ask the question, why don't we have an LVMH in Africa? Why don't we have a lot of big brands? It's because they struggle on the conversion and management for all of the infrastructure reasons you explained, on the payment, on the shipping. So when we started working on that two parts of the business much more with Anka Shipping and Anka Pay, what happened is that we could not put also the effort on the discovery. And another thing made it change and that people need to realize is since 2020, I don't think most people realize how much social media changed completely the life of e-commerce. You don't have now anymore the same way of finding customers. You need to realize when you're operating in 2024, everything that was told to you and even taught to us about growing is no longer the same. And if you don't change that, and that's something we have seen a lot, is that people don't realize that and they keep acting and keep listening to people that performed well in 2019.
Okay, yeah.
And that's why also we made, so if you have the opportunity, we recommend you read our white paper report that we will put in the description here, the link to our white paper report on African commerce on a global scale, where we share that the reality is that people always ask us how come we have a lot of sellers, but yeah, the top sellers, so the sellers that do over $3,000 per month represent only 3% of all sellers. And the question that people always ask is, what are they doing that the rest is not doing? And the two things that we saw that consistently mark a seller that is able to grow to the level of doing $1,000 is first, they export outside their country. Number one, there is almost virtually no brand to our knowledge, and we're talking fashion, agriculture, beauty, even digital products that is selling only locally and that manage to do consistently big level of sales. If you want to do consistently big level of sales, you need to sell globally. It can be in countries next to you, but you cannot stay in your countries, especially in Africa, because the reality is that the markets that we are large in numbers, but small in value. So you need to be very careful when you operate in Africa. And we don't even get into the stability of the markets, which have all the currency issues, all of the other things we had to face. So the other lesson we can give is that quickly, when we saw the numbers, we realized that we need to help people do more in exporting. And the second thing is, yes, these people are very good at getting discovered through social media, through something else. And that's the other thing. If you want to be a top e-commerce brand, you need to be great at doing your own discovery. You need to create great content. You need to have a consistent brand. You need to have regularly new products. We explained that in the white paper. I think a longer point, but this is all of the things we have seen that made us focus, and we started to realize that, okay, when we raise money, and that's also very important to say, we are very thankful for the investors we have, of course, from the IFC team to all the investors, the INP, Vested World, all of these people, and also the individuals that founded us. All of them came also because they wanted to uplift African entrepreneurship. They saw what we did on the marketplace, Afrikrea, of course, but what they really were impressed with was the infrastructure work on the shipping and then the payment. Because now we can get into more details, is that even to do the shipping and the payment services we have, which are the main services we offer now, it takes us a tremendous amount of money and tremendous amount of time. Yeah. And the one thing I also want to confess in this video also on the why is one of the big reasons we didn't do the transition before was because we didn't have an Anka product. And we need to explain that to people also and to understand what does that mean. It means that up until last week, even when you were using Anka shipping or Anka Pay,
it was on Afrikrea.
It was on Afrikrea.com. And that's the truth, you know. At some point, we need to also make our own nostra culpa, like they say in Latin. And that's also something that was due to the fact that building an application that is able to do what we expect to do with Anka, which is allow you to manage your shipment no matter where you're selling, to get paid on social media, on your website, or even to put your products on other marketplaces like Amazon, like Etsy, is something that is extremely complicated, and that's the reason probably why no one ever did it. And we spent 2 years trying to build it. That's I think also we need to say.
Yes, I think we finally have a product to show that work.
Yes.
Rather on social media, on Anka platform, on social media, and even now we are able to plug those services in some website.
Exactly.
Yes. So right now we can proudly say that yes, we have a fully Anka experience.
Exactly.
To propose to people. Yes.
Exactly. And if people want to know why is it so complicated to create we cannot maybe explain everything about the complexity of making a product that is agnostic on channel and can manage products on Instagram, product on Etsy, product on the marketplace, or payment in different countries. But we will try to focus on what is there today. So to let you understand what is really available and what it took so much time to build. Because I don't think the idea is just to explain to you the software complexity of building something like that. It took us 2 years to ourselves be humble enough. And I will give you one example is that when we raised our first fundraising, one of our investors is the Anders Okpofsen, is the largest owner of Zalando and ASOS. And when we raised money and when he invested 1.5 million, I remember when he said he invested, he told me, Moulay, what you're trying to build, you don't have enough money to build it. Himself, he invested, he said, Moulay, building a super app to allow sellers of a region so complicated as Africa to compete globally, we require 10 to 100 times more money than what you're asking for. And he told us that even though he believed it. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, yes.
And right after the meeting, I told you that.
Yeah. I think he even said that we need more tech guys than all of the team that
we have currently.
We were planning to hire.
Exactly. Yes. He told you exactly. He told us we need more softwares than all of the team we were already planning to. Yeah. To give you an idea.
Oh, yes. I think that by default, we had the transition. Yeah. We were the African Etsy. Yeah. And we realized that we were becoming the African Alibaba or Shopify.
For Shopify, exactly.
Yeah. So really infrastructure builder.
Yeah, plus African PayPal. Yeah. Because if you want to add all of this, basically the way to explain it simply is that Anka is trying to build almost 3 different companies inside of one. Yeah. Because the reality is that it's not because we are so ambitious that we want to do everything and we are very strong about focus. The reality is that unfortunately in 2024 that is what our customer needs. If you are a great brand operating out of Africa and you want to sell globally, I guarantee you cannot operate on one platform. And you don't have the support on your shipping and your payment that is as great as what we can offer. Not only because we have the best rate and we still have the DHL service, that's not the only thing. But even on the payment, a lot of the payment solutions that are out of Africa, for example, that allow you to withdraw your money on Africa, I guarantee you the success rate, the amount of time people outside are trying to pay and actually succeed of paying on your website is in general below 50%. People need to try almost twice as hard just to pay you if you use most African payment providers. And that's also one of the things we had to contend with. To be able to provide the services we provide, we need to work with global payment providers. And you can only imagine how much pressure and how much distrust they have in Africa. Because these are the exact same guys that were victims of frauds over the years from Nigerian companies, from Ivorian companies, or from individuals. So every time we do something payment-wise, we have to justify a lot. And the key thing to keep in mind is, for example, to give you an idea, initially in 2021, 2022, we started to get a bit of traction on the marketplace from the work we're doing. but most of the products were flagged as products that our payment providers would not allow. And they decided to drop us. Yeah. So multiple times over the years, we almost lost our payment providers, so which meant we will go to zero because we will have basically no way to get people paid. So that's another thing to keep in mind, is that we not only have to build something that works for African, but we need also to prove to the rest of the world that for once they can trust us.
Yes, they can trust African entrepreneur.
Yeah. And that's the other thing to keep in mind when we build what we're trying to build. So all of that made it extremely complex. And that's also why I want to also formally apologize to our customers it took so long. Because it took way too long to deliver them the Anka promise. And I understand a lot of them maybe lost patience, maybe even to some extent don't believe us anymore. And that's understandable. We won't be lying and pretending that, oh, for the last 2 years we were great. This was probably the hardest 2 years in our entrepreneurship life. Because to be honest, not only did we raised a lot of money, but it was not enough, like experts said. But another thing to keep in mind is we also had to grow. So we had to learn how to build all of this from the two of us.
Yes, to understand that really each country has its own rules.
Exactly.
You have to adapt to integrate different payment solutions.
Yeah.
Even if I take the case of Nigerian, I needed to learn about economics.
Yes.
With all the currency issue that they have, the type of issue that we never had in Europe, for example.
Exactly, or even in West Africa, we never had that. Yes, we never had the fluctuating currency that you had to learn.
That was completely new for us. So,
yes.
Yes, that was really painful for us as a founders, because it was hard to even explain to investors and or
to the team. Yeah.
And it was really painful for the team because we needed to find a lot of quick solutions.
Yes.
Time needed to really to try to survive.
Yeah. And it was also harder for most of us that are entrepreneurs like us. You need to recognize, and we won't lie about it, the other part is always the people. And it was also hard for us to find the right people, to train the right people, to explain to the people how to interact well with, let's say, a small seller that is just getting started online, or how to interact with someone that is always doing tens of thousands of dollars per month. Because we have the two type of customers in our bases. So even the idea of segmenting our bases is really recent.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is an example of things that also we improved on. So I think last time we checked, another thing just to conclude on the things we can recognize we have learned and we need to do better at is, I think in 2023, how much of our new sellers made a sale? Very few, if I'm not mistaken.
Very few. I think it was around 5%.
Yes. So 5%. This is something we are very sad about. But on 2023, only 5% of our new subscribers made a sale on Afrikrea. And that was something that pained us deeply, because it meant that we could no longer fulfill the mission of just someone that never sold online, that never exported, for example, will sell directly. And that is something that maybe one day we will be able to fight again for. But currently, our focus is, and that is always going to be the mission now, the entrepreneurs that are already able to do those things, to go with them to make it cheaper, faster, and save their most precious asset, that is their time, so that they can focus on growing their business. Yeah. So that is something we had to learn, and it was a painful lesson for us, but it explains also how we are now doing the work with the 3 products we have, so Anka Marketplace, Anka Pay, and Anka Shipping, to help those entrepreneurs. So I think we can maybe spend a bit of time to explain the vision of what we want to achieve now. So the idea for us is pretty straightforward. The mission always has been, like we said, making sure that African entrepreneurs perform globally. But we realized that the best of them needed the tools to be top-notch. They needed to have their customers, for example, pay them by PayPal in the US or PayPal in France, and be able to withdraw it in instant transfer in Nigeria or on M-Pesa in Kenya.
Yeah. Yes, they need velocity.
Exactly. They need to be fast, they need to be reliable, something that works. Every time they put a link to be paid to someone, maybe on WhatsApp or on Instagram or on their website, when someone puts a card, it goes through and they receive the money And they can then move the money like they need to, either to their bank account in the US or the UK or locally to any country they operate in. So that is the real promise behind the Anka solution. And the best thing is, once they do that, once they receive the payment, with the Anka shipping rates, they can in one click create the label. So this means that contrary, even if you're selling on your Shopify or on your WordPress currently, you still need, when you get an order, to go to DHL or at least have DHL come and fill in manually the order, or go to the DHL platform.
And sometimes before even get your money.
Yeah, sometimes you need to pay that before even getting the money. The idea for us is to build a full integrated solution that you can put even on your website if you want, where you get paid successfully. You go and you print in one click the label that matches, and on the second click you can get the pickup to get it cut. And you can do it for multiple orders and save a lot of time, avoid a lot of mistakes. And we also, but we will get into more details into that in another video, I think. We also help you manage the customs, which took us a lot of time, because another hurdle we had in 2022, for those that didn't know, is that the European Union imposed now VAT customs starting from €0, which didn't exist before, and I think was built mostly to stop the growth of Chinese product. But once again, African entrepreneurs are collateral damage. And that's also something that made it much harder for a lot of brands to sell in Europe. But that is something we can help them with, because we help them save money when they manage the customs and make it just as simple as, once again, click on the button and we manage most of the custom process for them. So that's also, I think, one of the big advantage. So for anyone that is doing, of course, physical products out of Africa, we believe now that we have built the best solution, and we are open to any questions in the comments. If you have questions about what you can do, how you want to use it, please do. If you know people that need that, you can share it to them. People that complain about their payment doesn't work on their website, or don't know how to get paid on social media, or they don't know how to create a PayPal, because some of them, even if they are just new, have already customers that want to pay them on PayPal, but they don't know how to get the money. Come to us.
Come to us, and you can go on Anka.Africa website.
Exactly.
And book a demo.
Exactly, that's a very good point.
You can schedule an appointment, a meeting with one of the members of our team that can show you the product.
Exactly.
So,
and help you tailor it to your usage.
Yeah.
But there is another thing that we also want to highlight is for people that don't even have physical products. We're talking about people that are selling digital products. So a big part also of our Anka Pay service is sellers and people that we have seen grown business, massive business, selling trainings. We have customers that are selling tourism. So we have one customer that is selling tours. We have customers that are selling we have someone that are doing Airbnbs. If you have an Airbnb, plain and simple, and for X reason you want someone that is coming to pay you ahead of time, you can create a payment link with Anka Pay, send it to them. They can pay you by card from anywhere in the world or pay you by PayPal. And then this money, you can withdraw it locally on mobile money, on your bank account locally, instantly almost. And that is something that we realized. So we built it initially, of course, once again for our customers, but we have seen a lot of need from digital entrepreneurs that actually need to get paid out of Africa, are taking Anka Pay by storm. And we are really now trying to do more and more to help these type of entrepreneurs, because first, we believe also that this is still our mission. If you have something in Africa that you want to have someone else in any country in Africa or else to pay, you can use Anka Pay. And that is the mission ultimately. We said initially our mission is to grow African entrepreneurship, but we don't believe African entrepreneurship to be limited only to fashion or to beauty or to food. Anyone that is using their brain to create something, to create an experience, deserve to be able to sell it globally. Anyone that wants to earn Forex, that wants to earn euro or dollars based out of Africa, now has a solution to get paid. And they can use Anka Pay simply no matter where they are and get paid from anywhere in the world. And that is really the vision for us, is to make sure that we are not going to be able, like we started with Afrikrea, to help everybody get discovered. That's no longer the mission. But if you have succeedingly managed to get discovered and now you need to convert your customers, you need to manage your payment, you need to manage your shipping, you need to make the most of the opportunities you get, we are the best platform to do so, no matter where you want to sell. And the great part about what we're building is it's only the beginning. And that is the other thing that we really want to highlight. And so in the comments, we're excited if you have any more people that have comments or questions about that. This is just the beginning, once again. I know it can feel like for some people we are changing a lot, but the world is changing itself so much.
The world is changing, but the vision is the same.
Exactly.
Our vision is really to unleash the growth of African entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
So that means that we already know that African entrepreneurs are already great.
Exactly.
At some scales.
Exactly.
We just want to help them really to develop, to accelerate that growth.
Exactly.
So that means that if we need to build other tools that allow us to fulfill that vision, we will do it.
Exactly.
No issue. So don't hesitate to. That's why it's important for us as a co-founder to keep that exchange, that contact with you, because that allows us to develop ideas. As now you know, Anka Pay and Anka Shipping was born out the testimonials and the feedbacks of our existing sellers.
Yeah.
So that means that we really want to keep that proximity with you as African entrepreneurs, really to try to build, and we will keep building that infrastructures for you. So put your comment. Go to book a demo, send us email, and we really need to read those things to try to understand you better.
Exactly. That's our call to action, and I think we will probably stop here. And I really want to thank you all that listens. If you felt like we didn't cover something there, I think we covered the main big question that people had, I hope.
Yes, I think we covered the principle, the essential. So
yeah, but we can come back, and that's the key thing I really want to highlight. This is just the first episode of the podcast. Next week, I will have another entrepreneur helping grow businesses out of Africa coming on the podcast. And every week now, you can reliably count on us every Monday to share another entrepreneur story growing outside of this country, selling creative products. And we'll try to make sure that this is something that not only inspires you, but also for those that are already doing it, that shows you that you're not alone in this fight. We are here to help. We are together. And we thank you again for taking the time to listen. And we hope to see you soon either on Anka.Africa, on our website. You can find us also on social media, obviously. And we especially hope to find you on the next episode of Creative Business.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.